Hello, I am going to, in this video, be demonstrating a harm exposure with my colleague Emily, and she will be acting as the client today.
Yep.
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Okay. Hi. So thanks for coming to session today. And tell me a little bit about what you and I have decided here, or what you've decided we're going to do for exposure today. And something I might like you to do as we go through and get started is make some notes of
hmm
what we're talking about here. And that way you can stay on task. Like if anxiety gets really high, you can just refer back to your notes.
Sure, definitely.
So what would be, or what is going to be, because I know we've talked about this before, but what is going to be a really good challenge for you today?
Yeah, so I know from doing some of the exposures that we've done before, like I've read some articles, I've watched some shows, and now I feel like I want to take it up a notch to some of the things
Mhm.
that I imagine to be a little bit more difficult. I'm like both excited and scared, but I feel ready. And one thing that I brought for today's session that I thought would be really a more challenging exposure would be I have knives here and
Okay.
I want to um, try to like touch them and pick them up.
Okay. Okay. And so tell us a little bit about what is the fear that you have.
Yeah, so I am fearful. I've had some like harm obsessions. I am fearful of losing control, first of all, and then doing something that I wouldn't normally do, like hurt someone. This kind of started, I had read a blog post about a woman who had lost control and stabbed her boyfriend. And she was somebody that like people wouldn't suspect would do this.
Hmm.
And to me, it was just like kind of highlighting that it's possible that somebody who's ever been in trouble could just snap and lose control and stab someone they love. So ever since I read that, I've been really like fearful of certain things surrounding harm and especially like just even touching knives. I've even thought like, gosh, I could even lose control and even hurt myself with a knife.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And tell me a little bit about what you would typically do to feel better. Are you avoiding things? What are you doing to feel better?
Yeah, so like I think more so before I started treatment, it was like, well, avoiding things, absolutely. And I have still avoided knives. So avoiding knives, I would just like remind myself like I'm a good person, like people have told me like my boyfriend doesn't think I would ever do anything. My mom doesn't think that I would ever do anything. So I'd like ask them, remind myself what they've said.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
sometimes I would even like say a prayer to myself or like ask God to forgive me for thinking about this.
Okay. Okay, so this is where we want to implement response prevention, right? So as we go into doing this exposure, we also want to resist any compulsive behavior that might be there. Okay,
Mhm.
and for the rest of today or for as long as possible.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're going to go talk a little bit before we get started. I want to ask some values related questions.
sure.
Okay, so doing this exposure today, what is that in the service of? So what value? So go ahead.
Yeah. So I think like honestly, like when I think about it, it's like connection. Like I love doing things with people that I care about. Like a big thing that I used to do before all this started with my boyfriend was cooking. Like I love to cook food for
Hmm.
him, with him, be in the kitchen with him. And now since all of this started, I just feel like I don't know if I could do that. I've been really scared to do that. We keep obviously knives in our kitchen, and I just feel like that is a space that like I would lose control. So I want to be able to do those things with him again, or like have my family over, cook for them, be able to sit really close to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. And so I know we've talked a lot about willingness. We've talked a lot about some different ACT components through your
hmm
treatment. And one of those things is willingness. And so if you were to say to yourself right now, like, I'm willing to take the risk of whatever it is in the service of connection, right? Or showing love to myself, to my boyfriend, to my family by continuing to do the things I love, like preparing a meal for them. So
Mhm.
I just want you to kind of think about that and use some of that language with yourself right now. So I'm willing to take the risk of sitting here with these knives,
Mhm.
or anything that you would want to add to that?
Yeah, I think like reminding myself like this is why I'm willing to do this because I think like gosh, sometimes I feel like some shame like oh, this is really what I have to do.
Hmm.
Like this is really what I have to do to get better, but I think like reminding myself, well, yeah, there's this other thing on the other side of this exposure, and I'm willing to do that because those are things that I used to do all the time and want to continue to do. And I think
Right.
at this point, like I'm willing, oh gosh, because there's parts of me that I obviously feel very like scared about some of this, but I think there's more of me that's willing to do this. So I would say like maybe I'm like 75% willing, 80% willing.
Okay. All right. It's a pretty good amount of willingness, I think. And
Yeah.
I know you and I know how brave you are. So I think that's actually really, really good.
Mhm.
Um, so what are your expectations of doing these exposures today? So we didn't define exactly what you're going to do here
Mhm.
yet, but what is your mind saying might happen during today's exposure? What's OCD telling you?
Yeah, so OCD is like telling me that like, well, it's like possible that like I could hurt myself or I'm in like a space that's shared with other people. Like, what if I like somehow liked how it felt to hold a knife? And like, what if I went out and like hurt someone or stabbed someone? Um, it's like really sharp, the knife that I picked. So I have like some thoughts like what if I cut myself purposely, accidentally? Like I don't know. It's just been so long. So I
Hmm.
expect myself to like to be extremely uncomfortable. I
Okay.
expect myself, I'm already having thoughts, so I'm expecting myself to experience a lot of thoughts about this. Um, and I like feel like gosh, having OCD feels like there's a lot going on up here, but I feel like most of me knows like I can handle this, but then there are parts of me that's like, well, it's been so long, I haven't done this. How do you know? So I do have some
Hmm.
like doubt that like, what if I did do something really catastrophic with this knife?
Right. Okay. So, how much do you think right now you believe that expectation? I know you shared your willingness, but how much do you believe that you could lose control during this exposure or you could hurt yourself?
But gosh, I would say maybe like 60% of myself thinks that that could happen.
Okay. Okay. And how long, when we talk about, we are going to get into exactly what you're going to do for your exposure, but how long do you think you can do the exposure?
Um, I mean, I think I could do it for like 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. All right. And you said you're about 70 or 80% willing.
Hmm.
Is that right? Okay. All right. And you believe that you could lose control about 60%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so let's talk more specifically about what is the exposure you're going to do. So I know you said you have knives there with you
Hmm.
and you're going to hold them.
Hmm.
And what else are you going to do?
So there's actually this article, was like an article that I had been reading for like a previous exposure about this woman who like lost control and stabbed her boyfriend.
Hmm.
So like I've like gotten better with that exposure and reading that. So I was thinking if I paired the two together, like, held the knife and then
Hmm.
kind of looked at that, even read some of it, looked at some of the words.
Hmm. I think that sounds like a great way to combine different things in your exposure. And that is something that we want to be doing as we're doing them. We want to be doing them in different contexts, different time of day, different settings, combining things as much
Hmm.
as possible. We want to vary the exposure as much as we can.
Hmm.
So, let's do just a little bit of affect labeling. And
Hmm.
so, what are you feeling right now? So, I'm feeling what?
I'm feeling a lot of things. I'm feeling uncomfortable. Um, and at the same time, I'm also feeling like, and this might be weird, but somewhat excited because I feel like this is like, I know this is going to help. Other exposures have helped. So I think
Mhm.
I'm excited. I'm also uncomfortable. I'm anxious. Um, I'm also a little bit proud because I'm like, I probably wouldn't have been open to doing this
Yes.
a couple weeks ago. So I feel that too. Um, and I'm feeling fearful in some ways too. I have some doubts. So it's all
Okay.
kinds of things.
Okay. And about how anxious are you? If we were to use a 0 to 10 scale, 10 being the most anxious, how would you rate that right now?
Like an eight.
Okay. All right. So this is a good exposure for you. And that's really my only reason for asking about how anxious you are. I just want to assess that this is a good exposure. We're not going to be completely tracking anxiety levels throughout the exposure. It is something that some therapists will do. And we might say, hey, at the beginning of this, how anxious are you? Midway, how anxious are you? After the exposure, how anxious are you? And then even an hour after, like,
Hmm.
where's your anxiety level? So those
Hmm.
are some things some therapists do. I generally don't do that a ton, but I do think it's important to kind of know that the exposure is a good quality exposure for you.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, this is a good quality one. This is one
it
that's like,
sounds
oh, been up there. So
it sounds like it. So I
yeah.
just want you to, as we kind of get into doing the exposure here, I want to make sure that you're letting go of any resistance that you might feel,
Hmm.
um, noticing anything that could be there that may be a compulsion.
Hmm.
So whether it's even worry about losing control, like that could be serving as a compulsion. So just
Hmm.
kind of checking in with yourself too about that. And if you have any kind of sensation right now in your body, I just want you to notice that and welcome it.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like my hands are getting a little like sweaty and my heart is
Okay.
like, beating a little bit faster.
Mhm. Okay. And so I know we've talked about before, like the leaning in process and making sure that you're fully in the exposure and really just really having good awareness about anything that could be getting in the way that's
Mhm.
inhibiting new learning for you.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
definitely
So
checking in with myself about those things.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
let me
why
just
don't we
take, oh, can I just take a
oh,
minute? I want to just write down
yeah.
a few little things to myself here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, so make a couple notes. You could make notes about things you want to make sure that you're saying to yourself as you do this. And these would not be coping statements. These would be things like, I could lose control, right? I'm willing to risk this. Anything that you're thinking that you're writing down that is going to help you
Like,
through this?
oh, like it's good for me to feel this. I'm willing to welcome this.
Hmm.
I could lose control.
We know nothing for sure. That's a good one I like to say a lot. We'll never know. And so for this exposure, we're going to have you hold the knives, correct?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we're going to have you read this article out loud
Hmm.
about the person who harmed their boyfriend.
Yep, let me just pull it up here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I have the article pulled up.
All right. And you've got the knives, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted
Yes.
to make sure. Can I
Okay, I
see
have
that?
a
Can I?
knife.
You have the, okay. So you've got
So
a
there's
small,
this
oh,
one.
paring knife. Awesome.
Oh gosh. And then this one.
Oh, the really big one. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, good, good. Those are
Mhm.
big knives. They look sharp. I think I
Mhm.
saw Cutco on them. And I know Cutco knives are supposed to be really, is that what it says, Cutco?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that Cutco knives are good knives. So
Yeah. This is a
Very
really,
sharp.
really powerful, sharp knife.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All
Mhm,
right. So in the service of, remember,
mhm,
connection. That's
mhm.
why you're going towards this.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll let you start with the article.
Okay. Do you want me to read it out loud or just read it to
Yeah, I
myself?
think read
Okay.
it out loud. Let's and make sure when you are reading something out loud like this, like for your exposure, you want to slow down and really like let it kind of sink in. So same with imaginal scripts.
Okay. So, a preliminary hearing for an Aston woman charged with killing her boyfriend and held without bail was scheduled for Wednesday, September 6th. Beth Peterson, 35, was charged with the first-degree murder and related charges in the stabbing death of her boyfriend, Matthew Wilcox, in a home in Blackthorn Lane on August 28th. According to Aston police, officers responded to a call at the residence and found Wilcox lying in the kitchen floor on his back, with Peterson performing CPR. Peterson, police said, looked at the officers on the scene and said, I've just ruined my life.
Hmm.
Yeah, she just ruined her life. Police body cam footage also indicates Peterson admitting that she stabbed Wilcox and he fell to the ground. Peterson was charged with stabbing Wilcox in the chest with a steak knife, resulting in his death.
So what are you feeling right now?
So I'm feeling a lot of discomfort. I'm feeling anxiety, uncertainty. Um, I'm feeling a little bit disgusted.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm feeling a lot of different things right now.
Okay. And where is your anxiety at with this exposure? Where you're at in the exposure?
I would say it's like medium to high level anxiety, like, because I think the parts of this that induced more anxiety for myself was thinking of her age. You know, she's
Mm,
35, I'm 32. This was a boyfriend. This was the steak knife, just a kitchen
just the
knife.
steak knife, yeah.
Yeah, so, and yeah, she just ruined her life. And I've had thoughts like that. So, what if I ruined my life? So,
Right. Okay.
mhm,
All right. Well, you're
yep.
doing great. Go ahead and finish the article.
Okay. So, according to the affidavit of probable cause filed by Aston officer and the county detective, the steak knife was found in the kitchen sink. Police also found marijuana and other drug paraphernalia in the kitchen. Evidently, the duo had a long-standing toxic relationship, as police have been called to the home on multiple occasions. Peterson told police that Wilcox arrived home at 5:30 p.m. and seemed intoxicated. She called his mother, as she had done many times in the past. When his mother arrived, Wilcox began arguing with her and she left. After Marie Wilcox left, Peterson said her boyfriend went after her, and that is when she grabbed the steak knife and stabbed him. Wilcox was taken to a medical center and he was pronounced dead at 7:49 p.m. Doctors said he received a single stab wound near his heart and stab wounds to his hands and head. Describing her son's relationship with Peterson as toxic, Marie Wilcox told officers the couple had been together for 8 years. She added, over the course of the relationship, there have been many times Peterson tried to resolve arguments. Peterson was arraigned on August 29th before MDJ held without bail and was sent to George Hill Correction Facility. Yeah.
Any changes in feelings, body sensations, anything that you want to report?
I'm just like feeling again like a lot of, discomfort. Um, I think reading this, holding these things is like something that like I haven't held knives like this. I don't even know in how long. So this and the
Okay.
article and just seeing how easy it is for somebody to lose control. Um, yeah, it feels like a lot, and I'm having can feel my heart rate increasing, feel a little lightheaded, but I'm just like trying to welcome this and just remind myself I'm willing to feel this. I'm not sure what might ever happen.
Right. Okay. And so if we were not doing this as a demonstration, I would have you continue to stay with that
Mhm.
for a good bit of time here. So at least 30 minutes, maybe up to 60 minutes for
Mhm.
the actual exposure. But for the sake of us doing a demonstration here, I want to ask you some questions as if we had finished the exposure entirely.
Mhm.
And what did you learn from completing this exposure today?
Well, I learned I like could do this. This is something I've been like really like in my head has been this like huge thing. So I learned I can do this. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I would be.
Well, I,
Um,
I want to point out that you said, I think I could do this for 5 minutes. And you did this for a lot longer than that. You did it for
yeah.
actually 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's longer than I thought I could do it. I like before was like, having images of myself like stabbing myself or going out there and stabbing someone. I like didn't do that.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So let's look at the discrepancy between what you thought might happen doing this exposure and or what you expected and what actually happened. Like what are those differences there or inconsistencies?
Yeah, so I feel like like the visuals of in my mind, the images, my expectations, like there still like were a lot of parts of myself that were like really uncertain and like thought it was very possible that I could just like do something so terrible with these knives.
Hmm.
And I didn't actually do that. And I noticed like as I held them longer and stayed with the article, like I noticed it began to feel more tolerable, which surprised me because
Hmm.
I know I've read the article many times, but like I've never read it while holding knives. So I think that really surprised me that like it was not as awful or as uncomfortable as I
Yeah.
thought it might
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good, good. So what I would like to talk about now as we finish out this particular exposure is just what are some other ways you can continue with this same kind of exposure, this same theme,
Mhm.
and what are some things that you can do throughout the week until we meet again?
Yeah, so I think I want to do this exposure just like we did it today, probably again tomorrow, and maybe like the next day. But then what I want to do, like holding the knives and everything by myself, but I think what it would be really important for me to do is, I know my boyfriend, he's come to our sessions before and he
Hmm.
knows about like ERP. I think what I would really want to push myself to do is sit close to him, maybe sit on the couch next to him while holding a knife, holding it like closer to him. Because I think that would be a really meaningful way to challenge myself, even though it's like really scary. I think I could do that.
Okay. And what about trying to cook? Are you ready
Yes.
for any of that? I mean, I know that's the ultimate thing to be able
Yeah.
to do, but could you could you try even using a butter knife in the kitchen with your boyfriend or maybe that paring knife?
Yeah, I actually think that like I feel like hey, like depending on how the exposure goes with him, like holding a knife, I imagine that would be like I could do that. So yeah, I think I would be
Okay.
willing to do that.
Okay. Great. Great. So I think you did a really good job today. Thank you so much for participating and
Hmm.
completing the work that you committed to doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for helping me. Yeah, wouldn't have been able to do this a few weeks ago.
Okay. Great. We're gonna stop this particular video and we're gonna come back on and talk about imaginal exposures.
Okay.